Okay, I'm going to do a combination of an ebook and some notes, and um, I have page numbers. You'll see they're different, so I'll let you know. Starting on page 5, you will see you were supposed to read about peopling the Americas. And if you just turn the page, you can see the Ice Age, how that sucked up the water in the world and created a land bridge. And so if you think of, like, the movie Ice Age, and they're walking across, that's what they could have been walking across. So the people in the first movie, that's who scientists believe populated North and South America. They're from Asia, so that's where the native people of North and South America came from. So Eurasia is what it's called. These were the earliest Americans. Now, you can read about them, the earliest Americans, but they will not be on the test. So we're looking for mostly stuff that'll be on the test. So the next thing we want to jump to is what drove the explorers. Columbus, you may want to write this down just to get it in your head. He was not the first, he was just the first to last. So if you jump to page 11 and read about indirect discoverers of the New World, they were more than just Columbus. And so I have it back on the notes, but we're going to read this together. So read along with me where it reads indirect discoverers of the New World, and yours is on page 11, and this is a different one. Europeans, for their part, were equally unaware of the existence of the Americas. Blonde-bearded Norse seafarers from Scandinavia had chanced upon the northeastern shoulder of North America about AD 1000. They landed at a place near this French place now, in present-day Newfoundland, that abounded in wild grapes, which led them to name the spot Vinland. But no strong nation-state yearning to expand supported these venturesome voyagers. Their flimsy settlements consequently were soon abandoned, and their discovery was forgotten except in Scandinavian saga and song. For several centuries thereafter, other restless Europeans, with the growing power of ambitious governments behind them, sought contact with the wider world. Whether for conquest or trade, they thus set in motion the chain of events that led to a drive toward Asia, the penetration of Africa, and the completely accidental discovery of the New World. Okay, this next part I have in notes on the next part, I think, but I'll just read it with you and then I'll point it out on the notes. Christian crusaders must rank high among America's indirect discoverers. Clad in shining armor, tens of thousands of these European warriors tried from the 11th to the 14th century to wrest, meaning to take, the Holy Land from Muslim control. That's Jerusalem area. So they went back and forth, and there's a map in your book on page 12 to see their route. Foiled in their military assaults, the Crusaders nevertheless acquired a taste for the exotic delights of Asia. Goods that had been virtually unknown in Europe were now craved. Silk for clothing, drugs for aching flesh, perfumes for unbathed bodies needed, colorful draperies for gloomy castles, and spices, especially sugar, a rare luxury in Europe before the Crusades for preserving and flavoring food. Europe's developing sweet tooth would have momentous implication for world history. I would say, if you had to say one thing that changed the world more than anything else, it was sugar. Okay, so you can read the rest of that about going, once they went around Africa, this was a big step, getting around Africa. So that's going to be that step needed to be made before they could venture out this way. And of course, as you all know, Columbus had the idea of heading this way to get over here. So instead of going by land, which was dangerous and difficult and took a long time, water is always easier. So the thing that they didn't know was that this was in the way. So Indies, East Indies is what they were referred to, not really India, but these islands in India. That's when he landed here, he assumed that's where he was, and they were called Indians. One of the most sticking words ever, and it's completely incorrect. Anyway, bring that up in class. We'll talk about it. Okay, it talks about the Portuguese. They're certainly important in, oh, good, here's one. This shows the route to Asia. So you can see all of these took a long time. Even though this is water, it took a long time. So we wanted to go this way. Let's see. Okay, another very key thing of why Columbus was the one that lasted, along with other things you just read about. Meanwhile, the Kingdom of Spain became united, an event pregnant with destiny, meaning really, really important in the world, in the late 15th century. This new unity resulted primarily from the marriage of two sovereigns, meaning two kings and queens, Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile. So a king and queen marrying and making one big Spain. And from the brutal expulsion of the infidel, meaning godless, Muslim Moors, that's what they were called, from Spain after centuries of Christian Islamic warfare. Those were the holy wars. Glorifying in their sudden strength, the Spaniards were eager to outstrip their Portuguese rivals in the race to tap the wealth of the Indies. Remember, you know, where Columbus thought he was going. To the south and east, Portugal controlled the African coast, thus controlled the gateway to the round Africa water route to India. Of necessity, therefore, Spain looked westward. Okay, so you can read through this. Columbus sadly died. Here he goes. Columbus was at first so certain that he had skirted the rim of the Indies that he called the native people Indians. A gross geographical misnomer that somehow stuck. Yes, indeed. And I think every kid has the point in their lives when they go, so like, what's the difference between someone from India and an Indian? Well, it was just wrong. It has nothing to do with any native person here. Okay, when two worlds collide, read through these, and these are in the notes. I'll point them out. I've kind of broken them down for you. When two worlds collide, this just talks about the exchange, and this right here really points it out, of foods, diseases, animals, unbelievable, you know, slave labor, just the mixing up of the world of all of these things, and that's called the Columbian Exchange.